will react.
Secure the objective. Hostiles have the hard point.
Countries fighting Russia.
Troops in contact.
Now, we haven't heard from the Kremlin head today, and it may be like previous times, some red lines begin to get fuzzy when the US takes actions that he specifically warned them against. Foreign Ministry spokesperson reiterated that kind of point that Russia would respond adequately and in a similar vein, but this is an extraordinary move by the Biden administration, and it definitely changes the landscape for the next pass. Trump. Maybe that's the point, Wolf.
Very significant development indeed. Nick Walsh, thank you for that report. And joining us now, a key Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Jason Crow of Colorado. Congressman, thanks for joining us. As you know, President Biden resisted Pete's pleas. They were begging for these long-range missiles for months and months. So is today's step, from your perspective, now too late?
Well, first and foremost, we need to stop listening to public statements coming from Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin, right? They feed us a steady diet of the things that we are worried about, the things that divide us politically. They know how to play us really well. So we just need to stop listening to the Kremlin and Putin. We have intelligence systems and networks that can understand the way that they are moving their troops around, that understand their strategic nuclear weapons. We know how to assess the threat from Russia, but I really wish people would stop saying Vladimir Putin says this or the Kremlin says that. And that's one. Number two, there has been a bipartisan coalition in Congress that's been pushing for the expansion of the use of U.S. weapons for over a year now. Ukraine is at war. They're fighting a war that's in interest that they meant that they stopped Russia.
Hardpoint identified.
Tracks. We need to start making sure they get the stuff timely. So they've authorized this expansion. They have not publicly acknowledged that.
Hardpoint is active.
But if it is true, it's the right move.
It's clear it's happening right now. Congressman, when President Biden's term ends on January 20th, he will be leaving behind an almost 3-year-long protracted war where the U.S. is slow initially to send Patriot missiles, F-16 fighter jets, and now these long-range missiles. Would you consider the Biden administration's policies on Ukraine to be a success?
Well, I think if you look at a couple of things. Number one, the coalition of countries, the over 50 countries that are a member of what's called the Ukraine Defense Contact Group. This is the coalition that was put together by the Biden administration. It exists because of the administration's response. Secretary of Defense Austin, Secretary of State Blinken, and so many others that have worked hard to create this coalition. That would not exist without the United States leadership, without the U.S. leading that, without us pushing Russia, France, so many other countries to come to the table and give aid. That said, I have pushed for aid to be delivered faster, for, as your prior segment pointed out, for certain systems to be delivered sooner on a quicker timeline. I will continue to do that because there's no doubt that in war, time matters a lot. Time has not been on the Ukrainian side here, so speed is important. I'm going to continue to push things to happen much quicker than they have been.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Friday that the war would end faster, he said this, under the incoming Trump administration. Do you agree with that?
Well, what I know is happening here is that President Zelensky knows he has to deal with President Trump. He knows he has to deal with President Trump. That's been a very intense relationship. President Trump has maligned President Zelensky, has attacked Ukraine. Let's not forget about the first impeachment trial, which was because President Trump tried to blackmail, extort Ukraine and President Zelensky to help him politically. So President Zelensky is a wartime president that is trying to save his country, trying to save his people. It's very clear to me that he's doing what's necessary to try to extend an olive branch, start a discussion with the incoming administration, which you can't fault him for doing. But I will be really clear here. President Trump did not solve this crisis. He continuously claims that only he can solve these international crises. Only he can solve these problems. which of course he didn't do.
Hostiles have
He
captured
was
the hard
president the
point.
first time around, and without an international coalition, without real leadership, he won't do the second time around.
I'm Jason Crow. Thank you so much for joining us.
Our U.S. Army General David Petraeus served as CIA Director under President Obama. General, good to see you. What do you make of the argument that Biden's decision to allow Ukraine to use these ATACMS inside Russia is too little too late?
We're winning. Keep
Well,
it
it's
up.
never too late, Jay.
Hardpoint
And
located.
it would have been much better if it had been done many, many months ago, as the congressman I thought quite persuasively explained. But this opens up hundreds of additional targets. The Institute for the Study of War back in August laid out all the targets that could not be moved. Certainly the Russians have moved some of the critical aircraft and others out of range, out of the 190-mile range the attack will provide. But there are plenty of targets left, including, of course, the reported 50,000 strong force that is massing in the Russian province of Kursk, which includes apparently some 10,000 North Korean troops, to try to expel the Ukrainian forces that still control a fair amount of that province just across the border from Ukraine.
There's going to be a new Secretary of Defense and a new president in January. If they wanted to, how hard would it be for them to reverse President Biden's decision to allow Ukraine to strike inside Russia and put those restrictions back on the use of that?
Well, it's an executive branch decision, so presumably it's something that they could do. I suspect that Ukraine is going to be quite conscious of that. We have a couple of months still to go. I can't imagine that they have huge numbers of ATACMS left. They're very, very effective. I should note that as the command of the 101st Airborne Division during the invasion in Iraq, our division shot about 103 of these, and they are devastatingly effective, whether in the solid 375-pound projectile, the explosive weight that it has, or actually in the improved conventional munition, in other words, the cluster munitions, which can be devastatingly effective against airfields, large groupings of troops, and convoys, and so forth.
He told CNN in February of this year that the U.S. aid to Ukraine is, quote, not charity. What we do around the world is not out of the goodness of our heart. It's out of a cold calculation, unquote. I don't know if it's been explained to President Trump in those terms, but what do you think would happen if he stopped that aid?
Well, first of all, I think we should be very conscious that what we do in one part of the world has reverberations in others. So for those that say we need to ensure deterrence of whatever China might contemplate doing against Taiwan or in the South China Sea, if you don't continue to support a partner who's fighting against a common enemy in the most important alliance we're a member of, Russia, what message does that send? Keep in mind that deterrence...
Nah, he ain't ready yet.
Willingness to employ them. If you're not willing to help Russia, I think that undermines deterrence out there very, very substantially. Then there's the obvious effect on Ukraine itself, which is in a very difficult position right now. I was just there again a few weeks ago, my fourth trip in the last 18 months, and the pressure on the front line.
Oh, damn, they got an invite.
It's a big jury.